Hello and welcome back, guys. Thank you very much for tuning back in. This is the next part of the recording for Unit 2, Lesson 6. In this particular part of the lesson, we're going to be analyzing the death penalty. As you may or may not be aware, this is one of the more controversial political topics that will be discussed this year. I think we mentioned that earlier on. But think about how this relates to the essence of the Eighth Amendment and no and cruel, unusual punishment in this way. Think about the role that the death penalty might have historically played too in our justice system. Before we begin, please let me encourage you to open up yet again to the proper part of the lesson and to complete the key concept questions or chart accordingly. Once again, if you need to, you can replay any part of this presentation for clarity later. Let's go ahead and get started. Should the death penalty be abolished? In January, Dylann Roof, age 22, received a death sentence for the 2015 hate crime killing of 9 African Americans in a South Carolina church. Overall, however, the use of capital punishment in the U.S. has declined in recent years as opposition to it has grown. In 2002, the Supreme Court ruled in Atkins v. Virginia that the death penalty for mentally disabled defendants violates the Eighth Amendment ban on cruel and unusual punishment. And in 2005, the justices barred the execution of those who'd committed their crimes as minors in Roper v. Simmons. Here, two experts argue whether the death penalty is too harsh a punishment for any crime. So here's the first side. Yes. When the United States was founded more than 2 centuries ago, capital punishment was commonplace in the 13 colonies, as well as in England and across Europe. Today it's becoming increasingly rare. More than 2/3 of the world's countries, including virtually all of Europe, have abolished the death penalty. This trend away from capital punishment can be seen in the United States as well. New death sentences and executions in the U.S. continue to decline. In 2016, there were approximately 30 new death sentences, down from a record high of 315 in 1996, and 20 people were executed in 2016. Compared with 98 in 1999, the decline in death sentences and executions reflects a growing discomfort in capital punishment. Support for capital punishment is a 40-year low. According to some polls, less than half of Americans favor its use. Since 2007, the death penalty has been eliminated in 6 states, bringing the number of that have the death penalty down to 31. An actual use of the death penalty is increasingly limited to a small geographic slice of the nation. 4 states, Florida, Georgia, Missouri, and Texas, are responsible for 90% of America's executions. We all benefit from a criminal justice system that creates a safer society with less crime, but that's not what the death penalty is doing. Murder rates are lowest in the Northeast, the region with the fewest executions, and the South carries out the most executions and has higher murder rates. Finally, there's the fact that the system is prone to human error and discrimination. Since 1976, at least 156 people have been freed from death row after evidence of their innocence has emerged, and death sentences are more likely to be given if the murder victim is white or if the defendant is poor. There are better ways to punish the guilty and keep our communities safe. It's time for the U.S. to join the international community by abandoning this medieval form of punishment. So those were the thoughts and opinions of Dianne Rust Tierney of the National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. But the other side here, of course, is conveyed to us right down here. By the way, here's some fast facts about capital punishment. 31 number of states with the death penalty, the federal courts can also use it. 20 is the number of executions in the U.S. in 2016, and that's down from 98 in 1999. And 2,905, the number of inmates on death row in the U.S. as of July 2016. So what's the other side of the story? Well, I believe Joshua Marquise, District Attorney for Clatsop County, Oregon, will tell us his thoughts now. No, capital punishment is an extreme sanction that is properly reserved for the worst and the worst. Terrorists like Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh and mass murderers like Dylann Roof. During the first decade of the 21st century, there were 26% more executions in the United States than the last decade of the 20th century. During the same time period, the U.S. murder rate decreased by 24%. Several academic studies show a clear deterrent effect from the judicious use of the death penalty. Opponents claim that there are innocent people on death row. While that may be true, it is not proven that every single innocent person has actually been executed. The reason is that in every state with capital punishment, convicted murderers automatically go through a series of appeals that result in an average of 12-year delay between the sentence and the execution. Beyond that, DNA testing can now establish with virtual certainty in many cases whether an individual is, in fact, the killer. On the other hand, there are hundreds of innocent victims who died because we allowed convicted murderers to get out of prison and kill again. Some claim life without parole is an appropriate alternative to the death penalty, but the looming threat of a death sentence is a key reason many killers agree to accept sentences of life without parole in plea deals. According to Gallup polls, 60% of Americans support the death penalty for a person convicted of murder. This continued support was on display in November. In California, voters rejected a ballot measure that would have abolished capital punishment in the state, and Nebraska voters rejected the legislator's move to end the death penalty there. If we can establish that a killer is absolutely guilty and has a track record that suggests he will seriously hurt and kill again, what do we say to his future victims if we allow him to live? We need capital punishment for those rare cases in which a killer is beyond redemption. So as you can see, this is a highly contentious issue, but only time will tell whether or not the United States of America takes a certain action on the death penalty in its criminal justice system. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in, and if you need to, replay any part of this presentation for help as you finish the rest of those key concept questions in the chart. Good luck.